sad news over the last few days. The passing of Val Kilmer. Obviously died peacefully at his home, surrounded by his family. I think it was pneumonia that he passed away with. Want to say he was in his 60s. I've not seen the exact age, but I know he was 65, but the same age as my parents. And also, we're going to not linger on it too long, but we're going to talk about the roles, his more inspirational roles that we know and love the guy for. But obviously, just address the passing of him again, Stephen. There's been a lot of prominent figures passed away recently, be it composers or actors and whatnot. And Val Kilmer, an absolute superstar of the 1990s. I was too young to appreciate the guy and his actual pomp, but certainly growing up and becoming a huge fan of film as I got progressively older. I was a fan of film when I was younger, but as I got older, I got to see his roles. First thing I seen him in, probably Batman Forever. Yeah. And then obviously the Prince of Egypt, which is on that list. I didn't realise he was voicing Moses in the Prince of Egypt, but that was one of my favourite animated films growing up. I must have watched that a good 24 times minimum. I fucking loved that film. Just a phenomenal actor, incredibly varied. He could do biopics, he could do comic book movies, he could do serious drama movies, action movies, animated movies. An unbelievable actor, so charismatic, such a good-looking guy as well. Just a sad loss, man. Also went through a lot with cancer and whatnot, so sad news to hear him passing away.
His last appearance on film, John, was Top Gun Maverick, and that sort of memorable scene with him and Tom Cruise.
It was a great film.
And yeah, a very emotional moment as well for both actors, I would have felt. You know, a long history of coming through the business round about the same time, and obviously appearing in the first Top Gun film, which propelled them to superstardom, both of them, John. I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, I was an avid follower of Val Kilmer's work, John, but you're absolutely right. When you talk about bullet pointing some of the standout performances, he was top drawer. You know, and mentioned Top Gun, Willow. Was probably my introduction.
Mad Martigan, yeah.
To him, you know, playing opposite Warwick Davis. And then as you get into the 1990s, although I wasn't a massive Doors fan, and I'm still not a massive Doors fan, I really liked that film because of Val Kilmer and his performance. And I did read somewhere that the surviving members of the Doors, when they heard Val Kilmer's singing, on tape, they actually believed it was Jim Morrison's voice. That's how good
that's a stunning performance
was. And then, as you said, John, Tombstone is probably the standout one.
It's my favourite performance of his.
John, I remember when you watched that, and you're a big Western fan, I'm not, but I did watch this at the time through a colleague I worked with at the time, and round about the early 90s, 93 I think the film came out. And I always remember you reviewing this when we first started doing Movie Burner Entertainment, and you were absolutely buzzing about. You're a big Kurt Russell fan, and that's a Kurt Russell film. But you were talking about Val Kilmer most of the time when you were talking about that film.
I mean, he stole the show, Stephen. It was a phenomenal performance. I think we had Bill Paxton in there as well, Sam Elliott, a whole host of incredible actors in there. Even your man who played Johnny Ringo.
Well. Yeah.
Incredible performances in that movie. Just obviously a historical biopic about real people, Wyatt Earp, and the story of him and his family. And I think he retired as a sheriff, and obviously trouble followed him, and it was all based in reality. Obviously a lot of hearsay with Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo, but Doc Holliday, what a performance. I think he was suffering from tuberculosis, and he just had this sickly look throughout. So not only incredible from the makeup and the sort of set dressing side of things, because they made him look authentically ill, but just the performance he delivered was so nuanced and brilliant. Some incredible lines. I've memorised partly his interaction with Johnny Ringo at the end. You look like someone walked right over your grave. I'm your Huckleberry. We started something back there we never got to finish. Say when. I was just playing or messing. I wasn't. Just unbelievable. An incredible performance. And again, it shows you the range of the guy. Just little nuanced stuff going on in the film where he's drunk and Ringo comes in and he tries to act the big man because Holliday's reputation precedes him, and he's doing the show with the guns, and he does it with a cup, an empty cup, basically saying, mate, you may think I'm drunk and I'm off my game here, but I can do everything you can do with a fucking cup. And then at the end, it all plays back in, he kills him. Yeah, I mean, for me, that's my favourite performance of his.
Yeah. John, it's funny because up to that point, you know, how big a fan I am of obviously the first two Tim Burton Batman films and Michael Keaton. And when obviously Keaton and Burton stepped away and Joel Schumacher came in, Joel Schumacher's a fantastic filmmaker, and I get there is apparently a cut out there of Batman Forever, which is the Schumacher cut, no studio interference, so I'm hoping we get to see that, John. But when Val Kilmer was announced as the new Batman, it was through the performance of Tombstone I knew they'd got the right guy for it because of his range, and I went, he's going to be an excellent Bruce Wayne. I know he is, just with his performance. And you talk about range, John, this guy could do comedy, he could do romance, he could do action, he could do thrillers. You know, we talk about Heat, which is one of the best films of the 1990s. Yeah. And we always talk about Bob De Niro and we always talk about Al Pacino's performances. Val Kilmer played a big part in that film as well. And if it wasn't for Bob and Al being in that film, he probably would have been the top man in it, you know, in terms of stars. But even through films like The Saint, which I enjoyed, I don't think it was well received over here. I thought it was a good film, and it was because of Val Kilmer, you know. And
he just had that ability to elevate a film. Which is a rare commodity. You've got a lot of great actors out there, but very few can take... I mean, let's not beat about the bush. Batman Forever's not the greatest Batman film that was ever made. Certainly growing up, I had a real love of it because it was probably aimed at my demographic. I was a very young kid when it came out. I want to say it was, 97 or something? 95. I was 6 years of age. So this was right up my street. I loved the Batmobile. I had it as a sort of toy when I was younger. Also Jim Carrey, I was a massive fan of Jim Carrey when I was younger, still am to this day. But again, he's sort of over the top physical acting. I loved The Mask, I loved Ace Ventura. He was in there, so I mean, it's a movie that I connected with. And looking now, it's probably not the best. You look at Rotten Tomatoes, if that's something you're interested in, it's in the 40% range. But I fucking loved the film as a kid, and it was probably my first brush with Batman. I dare say I watched the Burton ones after. So he was probably the first version of Batman I ever got to see. And
I don't think Val Kilmer was the issue though, John. It was just
he was a great
bad studio decisions, you know, and the kind of tonally it shifted as well. It became a little bit more
campy,
light and airy, and I don't know if we're allowed to say that.
I'm saying it. I mean, it's camp. I mean, that's
it's very Adam West. You know, that's what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, is that not what they say when they talk about Batman? I'm going to Batman 1960s. See if it comes up with camp. I'm fucking claiming it. It became a camp. Absurdity and self-parody.
But I think Val Kilmer played the role very well, and I think he played a really good. I mean, there was a lot of psychology in that film to do with Bruce Wayne as well, you know, and obviously Nicole Kidman playing the doctor, the psychologist, playing opposite. Val Kilmer was a big part of that, you know, and just it's something they didn't really delve really into until obviously the Dark Knight trilogy, where you understand his sort of fear and his phobia of bats, etc. You know, but this was the sort of film that they really, I think they delved into it, you know, into the sort of psychosis of Bruce Wayne. Obviously, the Michael Keaton ones highlighted it, you know, with the flashback scenes of his mum and dad getting murdered and stuff like that. But there was something about Val Kilmer as well. I thought it's a very hard thing for anyone to come in and you know, take over the role from Michael Keaton because he did it so well.
Who's arguably one of the, if not the greatest Bruce Waynes. I think he's been Batman overall, but certainly Bruce Wayne. I think he's the greatest Bruce Wayne. I mean, I liked Bale's Bruce Wayne. There was sort of comedic edge to his sort of public-facing version of himself, his personality, where he's coming in and buying hotels and frolicking about in fountains and whatnot. But there was a serious edge to Michael Keaton. There was a darkness within the character when he was playing Bruce Wayne. So for me, I think he's the greatest Bruce Wayne ever. I think probably Bale's got a real sort of edge when it comes to Batman overall, because I just love the Nolan trilogy. I love the groundedness of it, the grittiness of it. But I mean, you're right, Stephen Kilmer coming in after Michael Keaton, that's big shoes to fill. But I thought he'd done a great job, man. I like the film. I'm not going to change my opinion now because everyone thinks it's fucking crap and retro in hindsight. I was young, and much like the prequels.
This kind of path that a lot of actors do after sort of the heights of the 1990s, where they're in lesser films. I'm going to say, I'm not going to beat around the bush. They're lesser films, you know, and you don't see them as much, and they're in a lot more films than they usually would be, because they're just sort of, I don't want to say phoning it in or anything like that.
Yeah, Robert De Niro. Yeah,
actors like Nicolas Cage do this thing where they just rattle through a lot of films, and some are hits and some are just go right under the radar. And I think Val Kilmer was at that stage, and I think perhaps maybe because of his acting abilities and how he could change his range in different genres, if he didn't if he didn't fall foul to obviously his illnesses, I do believe that he could have been in the next Tarantino film. He's at that stage in his sort of career, you know,
where he gets a second win,
massive star, you know, and he's getting that second win, and I think that's where it would have probably have ended up.
I didn't realise he was in the Snowman. I remember watching that. That was the Liam Neeson film. I really enjoyed that. That's another film that's got a poor rating.
Yeah,
I quite liked that.
He was in as well, which I watched and I thought it was good. But again, it's those sort of appearances. He's not the main star, you know.
No, but I mean, he'll be sadly missed. He was a phenomenal actor, just hugely inspirational figure in the 1990s, and also that continues to resonate into the current day. And it's just sad when you lose people of that standing, because sadly, and this may be controversial, but I don't think we're getting actors of that charisma and standing now. The new generation coming up are just wet wipe, underwhelming, beige. I can't think of one actor that could fucking fill the shoes of a Val Kilmer or any of the greats from prior to that, the 1980s, 70s, 60s, like Gene Hackman, who's passed away recently. I mean, there's no one of that calibre or presence.
We obviously covered Gene Hackman after his sad passing. I was actually watching a video the other day. Do you remember that series Inside the Actor's Studio? I loved it.
Yeah, it was phenomenal,
It was Gene Hackman who was on it, and the host, I can't remember his name, the bearded chap with the glasses, but he was asking about Gene Hackman, and his father just disappeared one day, just left him as a kid. And he always remembers his dad just driving past him in the street and waving to him. That was one of the very last things he saw. And Gene Hackman was getting really emotional about this. This was like 60 years on. From
I mean, that's PTSD, that would affect you greatly.
It was incredible to watch, John. It really was, you know. And I mean, just.
But it's those kind of moments, Stephen, that shape an individual. You tend to think people who've had issues like that in an earlier part of their life. Also, John Lennon's the classic one. Father abandoned him. Mother obviously tragically killed, kind of abandoned him and then came back into his life, hit with an off-duty police officer, killed. That kind of empowers people to go out and make a name for themselves. That tragedy, that sort of, don't know, the troubled past or whatever, the demons within, they almost power them to be something really special. You tend to find the most damaged people who have got real issues going on, become unbelievably successful. So that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, it's definitely something that drives them, you know, and that takes a lot of strength, great strength. And you know, I was watching that last scene with Val Kilmer again with Tom Cruise and Maverick, John. It's quite an emotional scene because he's obviously struggling with his voice at this point.
A wee bit there.
And I think Val is using like a keyboard to sort of type in his responses to Tom Cruise's character. And, you know, he does speak at the very end of it, you know, and it's just that it's a great scene between the two of them, you know, and it looks very personal. It looks very personal.
Stephen, I thought that film was brilliant. That film got a lot of backlash afterwards because I think it got nominated for some Academy Awards and all, so there was the usual sort of political side to it, where I think because it was promoting a more masculine kind of energy, and we know that's not allowed in current society. There was a lot of blowback on it. People didn't understand why it was so popular. It's not difficult to understand. It's connecting a hugely successful film from way back with multiple superstar actors in there, Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer. And the way that they connect, there's just some brilliant little sombre moments and poignant moments in there. Like he goes into the bar and he sees them all partying, a new generation that takes him back to when he was young. There's just loads of little moments in there that connect beautifully. I thought it was a fucking great film.
I remember the backlash, John, and I remember these ridiculous reasons for the backlash as well. And it's the same people that will create a film that goes totally the opposite way of what you just described.
Yeah.
And their answer to that is, this film's not made for you. Okay, not watch it then. So
exactly,
don't watch Top Gun Maverick. That film is not made for you.
It's not made for you. Yeah, it's made for fans of the original and fans of great action films in general, who want to go out and escape the ills of the world and just be wild. And to be fair to Tom Cruise, that's something he does do consistently. He tries to go out and make people forget their troubles with the likes of Mission Impossible and whatnot. So whether they succeed is another thing. So I mean, look, again, I don't have much more to say about Val and the passing, but other than to say that it didn't really surprise me when the news broke, Stephen. Sometimes when actors pass away or famous people pass away, you're genuinely stunned by it. The one I always think of is Chadwick Boseman, because it really did. I didn't realise how ill the guy was. I hadn't seen him in the Instagram sort of videos and whatnot, promoting the charity right up until the last moment, how frail he was. So when you sent that message to me at that time when he passed away, that was a genuine air leaving my lungs, complete surprise, stunned. With Val, it wasn't as much a surprise because I know he was battling a lot of issues with his health and whatnot, so it didn't surprise me greatly, but also still fucking sad as hell when you lose someone of this standing.
Yeah. Someone that's been part of your childhood, especially Batman.
Yeah, of course. And as I says, I didn't know he was in Prince of Egypt. I actually forgot all about that film, but I remember that being a brilliant, brilliant film about Moses and obviously his story leading the... What were they called? The Jacobites? I can't know. It wasn't Jacobites. That's fucking Scotland. It was the slaves out of Egypt. It was a classic biblical tale, wasn't it? I loved that film as a young guy. I watched it so many times. I didn't even realise Val Kilmer was the guy voicing. So again, like I said before, it just shows you how versatile an actor he was. That he could do voice acting.
He did a few animated films, John. He did one. It wasn't Cars. It was an aeroplane version of Cars. I can't remember what it was called.
Have a look. See if I can find it.
But I remember he did quite a few animated films as well. He had quite a distinct voice, at his peak. And I mean, they had the charisma as well on screen in terms of live action as well, John. And you need that when you're playing a role
like Bruce
Wayne. Planes.
Bravo.
Yeah.
That is like Cars. You're right. It looks like it's maybe a spin-off.
I don't know what it's called. Yeah, Planes.
But I mean, we're talking about voice acting. You see Robin Williams in Aladdin and whatnot. You see a really talented actor in terms of live action. They can go in and lend their talents to voice acting. It's a specific art that you find a lot of actors transitioning into who are not as successful in live action. Like Mark Hamill, obviously, most notably. Not saying he's been a failure as an actor, but he did transition into more voice acting and also became a legendary Joker in his own right.
Usually actors that are typecast, that's what happens.
Yeah, they have to go away.
In fact, it's probably because they played the role so well.
Yeah.
It
They're renowned for that.
Marks them for life,
Well, we've seen that with Daniel Radcliffe with Harry Potter. He didn't go into voice acting, but he went into stage working and went to Broadway and whatnot. So, and also Robert Pattinson went completely off-piste and done independent movies. That's what you've got to do. Yeah. When you come up in a specific role and you're renowned for it, you have to go and do something completely different and reset. Val didn't really do that though. He was just fucking tremendous. Decided he wanted to do voice acting and he done it very, very well. He was in Jay and Silent Bob, by the way. I've not seen that reboot. I don't think I will.
Oh yeah, they did it. I've not seen that either.
Yeah, I loved the original. I loved that, man. Loved those films. Yeah. I was gonna go to class, but then I got high. Then I got high.
That song came on. That song came on in McDonald's the other day.
It's a random thing to put. That was such a good song, man. I remember that back in the day. Was that Ashton Kutcher? I can't remember if he was in that as well. I may be tripping. I think I'm tripping. He was in a film. Ashton Kutcher was in a film with Kevin, blanking on his name, terrible.
Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith, yeah, I was going to say that, but then a Hart came into my mind. I'm like, it's definitely not Kevin Hart. He was in, what was the film he was in? He was in a film with Aston Kutcher, I'm sure it was. Was it the one with Matt Damon? Dogman?
I couldn't tell you. I don't remember.
I may be talking shit here. I may have just been making that up completely. Dogma was a film. Ben Affleck was in it. Matt Damon was in it. Kevin Smith was in it. Aston Kutcher, I don't think was in it. So I just made that up. That's a false memory. Maybe it's a Mandela effect. And now I'm going to go off piece completely and search up Kevin Smith.
Now you're going to check and see if Kevin Smith and Matt Damon were in Dude, Where's My Car?
That's what I was thinking. Dude, Where's My Car? I was thinking of multiple. No, they weren't in anything together. That's a complete false memory. I was young. That's my fucking get out. I was young. It was before my time. But shall we move on, Stephen?